So if you're learning German, I'm sure you've bumped into this weird little problem. There seem to be two different ways to talk about the past. Well, in this explainer, we're going to clear all that up and give you one simple rule that makes it all make sense.
All right, let's dive right in and look at these two past tenses. You've got the Präteritum and the perfect. And the big question, the one every single learner asks, is why? Why do you need two, and how on earth do you know which one to use?
And hey, it's a totally fair question, right? It feels a little unnecessary. You work hard to learn one way to talk about the past, and then, bam, you find out there's this whole other way. It can be super frustrating, but I promise the good news is there's a really simple trick to it.
Okay, let's look at a real-world example. On the left, you see Ich ging nach Hause, and on the right, Ich bin nach Hause gegangen. Now in English, these both mean the exact same thing, I went home. So what's the deal? Well, the difference isn't about the meaning at all. It's all about the context.
And that, my friends, brings us to the golden rule of German past tenses. The choice between them has almost nothing to do with when something happened. It's all about whether you are speaking or writing.
So here it is, the big secret laid out nice and simple. The Präteritum, that's your written German. Think fairy tales, novels, news reports. But the perfect, that's your go-to for spoken German. It's what you're going to use pretty much all the time when you're just chatting with people. So here's the best piece of advice I can give you. If you're ever not sure which one to use, just use the perfect. Seriously. In a conversation, it's almost always the right answer, and you'll sound way more natural.
Okay, so we know when to use the perfect, which is most of the time. Now let's figure out how to actually build it. Since this is the tense you're going to be using day in and day out, it's really important to get comfortable with it.
The great news is the formula is actually pretty straightforward. It's a two-part deal. You need a helping verb, which will either say haben or sein, and then you take your main verb and turn it into something called a past participle. You can think of that as the gone, seen, or done version of the verb.
For most verbs, the regular ones, it's this easy little recipe. You just stick ge on the front, pop the verb stem in the middle, and add a te at the end. So verb like machen, to do or make, becomes gemacht. Simple as that.
And here's what that looks like in a full sentence. Ich habe meine Hausaufgaben gemacht. See, you've got your helping verb, habe, right after the subject, and the past participle, gemacht, kicked all the way to the end of the sentence.
But of course, it wouldn't be German without some irregular verbs, would it? The basic idea is the same, but the past participle looks a little different. The middle part, the stem, often changes, and the ending is usually en. So for gehen, to go, it becomes gegangen. These just take a little bit of memorization, but you'll get them. So how do you know if you need haben or sein? Well, the vast majority of verbs use haben. You only need sein in two main cases. First, with verbs that show movement from one place to another, like going, driving, or coming. And second, with verbs that show a change of state, like waking up or falling asleep. All right, we've pretty much nailed the spoken past, so let's switch gears and take a quick look at the written past, the Präteritum. The Präteritum for regular verbs is actually really nice and straightforward. You just take the verb stem, add ta, and then pop on your personal ending. So spielen becomes ich spielte. See how it's just one compact word? That's kind of why it's so popular in writing. It's efficient.
Now, with the irregular verbs, the verb stem just completely changes. There's no real pattern, you just have to learn them. This is why gehen becomes ging and essen becomes assen. You'll see these forms all over the place in books and stories.
Okay, now listen up, because this is a huge exception to that written-only rule. The Präteritum forms for to be and to have, so ich war for I was and ich hatte for I had, are used constantly in spoken German. You will hear them everywhere all the time. All right, now that we've broken them down, let's put them head-to-head in a little past tense showdown to really see the difference.
This table really lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? You can see that two-part perfect for speaking right next to the shorter one-word Präteritum for writing. And look down at the bottom. See how much shorter and snappier war is compared to ist gewesen? That's exactly why you'll hear war and hatte in everyday conversation. It's just easier.
Okay, enough of me talking. We've gone over the rules, we've seen the examples, now it's your turn to actually put this into practice. So take a second and think about this one. She went to the cinema. How would you say that out loud in a normal conversation in German? A little hint, remember that to go is a verb of motion. All right, ready for the answer?
How'd you do? For speaking, the correct answer is Sie ist ins Kino gegangen. We use ist because going is a motion verb and gegangen is our past participle. Now, if you were writing a story, you'd probably use the shorter Sie ging ins Kino. But for just talking to someone, the perfect is definitely the way to go.
And honestly, that's really the core of it. So, to wrap this all up, I've got one last little challenge for you. Think about one thing you did today, anything at all, and try to say it out loud in German using the perfect. Go on, give it a shot. Because that simple act of actually speaking is what turns all these grammar rules into real language.